get one body. This is your temple. Eat better. Get rid of alcohol. Save it for special occasions. And you should be an example for those people close in your life.
What do you say to those young guys who just aren't feeling connected in society?
I think you need to learn to understand yourself and who you are and sit in quiet. If you can keep the promises you make to yourself, both in a micro and a macro sense, and you stick to those promises, you'll feel good about yourself.
Today's guest, a humble physical specimen turned internet sensation, amassing hundreds of thousands of fans and followers online, known for his relentless physical training regime and expert fitness advice. Please welcome to the show military veteran, CrossFit and fitness modelling champion, Michael Roach.
I just had an epiphany one day. I wanted to get out on my own. And that epiphany was, my dad's in the army, I'm going to join the army and just be my own man. Leaving the Defence Force, and then it was very challenging for me. But
what's it been like with the growth of your presence online?
For this next year, I'm going to use everything that I've learned in regards to my training knowledge, and I'm going to see where I can take myself, my body. I'm going to post it online. Social media is really good professionally. So if you're thinking about posting online, just do it, because it can change your life. It is 100% energy in, energy out. So if anyone wants to tell you it's your hormones or the medication you're having or this, that and the other, it's not. It is literally, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to burn body fat. If you're in a surplus, you will gain. So if you can get yourself over 6 weeks, bring yourself into a deficit, so you bring your calories down, and then you get data. So if your body hasn't changed, you haven't lost any body fat, you know you need to.
Michael Roach, welcome to World Class Voices.
Thank you very much for having me. You've had so many great guests on this podcast, so I'm humbled that you'd have me.
No, totally. It's I love the story of how we met, and I'm really grateful for our relationship. It's a special one. I thought a really fun place to start would be. I mean, you're a humble man, but I've just got to say, you're an aesthetic specimen.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
What does a day in the life look like for Michael Roach in terms of training, eating, business? What does a day in your life look like at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment, I was just traveling in Japan, so I'm trying to get myself back into routine. But as soon as I got back, waking up on time, having something to eat, working as much as I can, and then I'll hit the gym around 10 o'clock. I tend to eat everything the same every day. And when I eat everything the same every day, it keeps me in good routine. And then I'm able to manipulate my macros as necessary. And that's how I can stay, I suppose, as lean as I can throughout the year.
Yeah.
I'm a hard gainer, so it took me a long time to put on muscle mass. I had to force myself to eat. And then now that I've got to an aesthetically satisfying result, I can just maintain that, and that's tend to what I look at during the day. On the weekends, I like to indulge in burgers, pizza with my kids. I tend to relax and that sort of thing. But during the week, I eat the same thing over and over again, and I work as hard as I can when I'm in the gym. Now, training wise, I train anywhere from 4 to 5 days a week.
Yep.
Depending on routine, other responsibilities, and that sort of thing. But essentially, when I am in the gym, it's always purpose-driven. I think working to a max and then having enough recovery days throughout the week is very important, because when you do have enough recovery days, it puts you back in an anabolic state where you're repairing and growing. However, when you are in the gym, imperatively, you need to be purposeful in getting yourself close to failure, if not failure. And I keep that mindset whenever I'm training, and that has worked significantly well for myself, yeah.
Is there a difference between getting from A to B, as in growth, whether that's gaining or losing weight, versus being in your, in an optimal state and just maintaining? Like, do people have to have a different routine if they want to make a dramatic change versus already being where they want to be and just maintaining that?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose it depends what you're after. So
right.
if you want to put on muscle mass, then for me personally, what worked for me is eating in a slight surplus. I don't like bulking. I don't like feeling unfit. So I needed to eat in a slight surplus. And that slight surplus just ensured that I had the amount of energy that I required within the gym.
Okay.
And because I have more energy within the gym in that slight surplus, I'm hitting better numbers. I obviously power build, so I try and get my strength up nice and strong. And then my hypertrophy set, obviously hypertrophy is muscle growth sets increase. And when they increase, your body has to adapt. So a slight surplus if you're trying to gain muscle mass. However, everybody's different. So, and I mean by some people are overweight and they want to get nice and lean and they want to be healthy. So we go into a deficit. We get yourself into a deficit, gets yourself looking and feeling a lot better. Once we've got you looking and feeling a lot better, then we may look at increasing those calories when with that performance increasing. Then we put on muscle mass that way. It's always better, in my experience, to get people to lose their body fat first and then increase from there, rather than just hitting the gym, eating what they're usually eating, and then trying to attain some sort of muscle growth in that format, because you still keep that body fat on. Yeah.
So the difference of growth, whether that's gaining or losing weight, and maintenance is more so in your diet, nutrition, as opposed to
100%.
amount of days training in the
Look, yeah, 100%. It's food and diet. I know there's always people saying, it's 80% food, 20% training. However, if you're training hard and you're putting yourself through the ringer, twice a week at least, where you're really, going hard, and those other 2 weeks may not be as challenging, but you're able to take yourself to true failure or close to failure, where, like I said before, that purpose-driven training, in my experience, like, your body changes and adapts to what you do, you know? So I think there is a cheat code in really lifting up your performance, sprinting, getting yourself, in that lactic system or to failure when you're lifting weights. And then obviously the ultimate recipe for that is adding in that nutrition as well. And do it for a long period of time. 6 weeks, you'll see a lot of adaptations, body change. 3 months, you're going to see more. When you've done it for 6 months, because you've done it for 6 months, you don't forget. You know what you're doing. You know how your body reacts. And then with that data, essentially you can just improve from there and take your body to where it needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? I mean, we were just saying before about consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing I struggle with.
Yeah, consistency.
And I know it's the same for so many other business professionals. I want to double back to that soon, and delve more into the different types of trainings that are out there today. What, you've obviously championed a few different styles across your life, and you've landed where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do, I mean, like, I'd love to jump back to younger Michael Roach, and learn a bit more about where you started your story, and just to kind of paint some context and give us a bit of an insight into you.
Yeah, sure. So when I was younger, I lived between my mum and my dad. My dad was in the army. So we traveled a lot, or my dad would post away and I'd live between them. So all up the east coast of Australia. And there was myself, my older brother, and then my dad and his new partner. They had a daughter, so I've got a stepsister. And we had a interesting family in that because I lived between my mum and my dad, I didn't really feel settled anywhere I was. Through my teen years, I was in Canberra, where I am now, and all my later teen years. And then while I was there, I just had an epiphany one day. I wanted to get out on my own. And that epiphany was, my dad's in the army. I'm going to join the army and just be my own man. And I was 18. I had a very young mindset then. I didn't know much about the world when I was 18. But I just wanted to lift up my trousers and delve into life. So I chose the Defence Force. And my dad was an Armoured Corps officer. He was a very successful Armoured Corps officer.
So what is that?
An Armoured Corps officer is someone who's been commissioned by the Commonwealth to be a leader within the Defence Force, whether that is Army, Air Force, or the Navy.
Versus being enlisted.
Versus being a non-commissioned role where you're just a soldier and then you go into that non-commissioned officer.
Yeah.
So you can be commissioned by the Queen, or you can be a non-commissioned officer, which is another junior leader.
The King now.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
The King. So, so I looked at my dad then, and he had some really good personality traits. He's always confident. He's disciplined with work, and he carried himself in a charismatic manner. And it was around the time of September 11 as well.
Yeah, wow.
So September 11 had happened, and then I just had thoughts of joining the army and being my own man.
So in 2002, September 11 was, how old was
it? It was end of 2001, September 11. I joined
2001. You're right.
Yeah. I joined early 2002. That's when I joined. Yeah,
at 18.
was 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, what was it like growing up with your father in the military? Was there, what was his, like, was that?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. My dad worked a lot. And when I was in the family environment, because I was between the two households, I never, like I said before, I never felt really settled. Like I didn't, and this is just when now that I'm, pushing above 40, I am above 40 now. I look back to my childhood and I wonder why the things that I did back then turned me into what I am now. And I truly believe a lot of that is to do because I want to show my dad specifically that I've always had that like deep inside where I just want to push and pursue and do better. And I think because I never felt settled when I was young, probably because my dad was working all the time, so I never had that constant, I suppose, guidance from him, although he did when he could. And then my mum was generally unwell when I was young as well, and I just didn't really feel, I suppose, safe in some respects. So when I came into my adult years, I joined the army. I was 18. Because I fell into the army with such a young mindset, I would look to older males, peers and older males for some sort of figure within my life to look towards to give me guidance on how to be a man, And in the army at that age, there's a big drinking culture. You go out on the weekends all the time. You're probably not looking necessarily you're not looking at necessarily the correct men to follow in their footsteps. And that's not to say that they're probably really great men now. It's just at that point in time, it just wasn't there. So I tried to work things out on my own. I know you Sam, are 23, almost 23, and I think about myself when I was 23, and we're leagues apart. You're a very confident, charismatic, entrepreneur. And when I was 23, I was working during the week, going out on the weekends every weekend, obviously setting up for deployment and going out bush all the time. But in saying that, the Defence Force does give you one thing. It does instill discipline.
Yeah.
However, I found that I was in a high anxiety state all the time because you have to be somewhere on time. When they tell you to fire, you have to fire. You're under a lot of pressure. So I got out after almost 8 years in the army. I finished up as a recruit instructor. I deployed to Iraq a couple of times, and so I got a fair bit of experience. And then as I got a little bit older, when I was in the Defence Force, my mind started maturing a lot more, and you can kind of see where you're headed in the future. You become more self-aware. And then my last role as a recruit instructor, because I'm in charge of soldiers and their development and training them to work well within the Defence Force, setting them up for careers. I really enjoyed that, being in a leadership role when I'm molding people's minds and instilling that discipline and what I'd learned in the Defence Force. So for me personally, that was a big catalyst in the shift of my direction and my mindset. And while I was in that role as a recruit instructor, Sam, that set me up to fall into my training and coaching and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Just on that, I'm interested in one detail. Patriotism. With your dad serving our country, and then of course you going on to serve our country too.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with that growing up? Were you always proud to be Australian, or was it just was that just not something different and that was just normal? Because it's just such an interesting topic. I like to spend a moment on often because of where we are today.
Yeah. Now, look, it is a good question because I can remember around that time, I was, you're proud to be an Australian. I was proud to be Australian. You go for the Olympics, Aussie, all that sort of stuff. So you did have that behind you. And the Australian Defence Force is a really good defence force. I believe we have a good name. We're very professional. And I think during my period as a soldier, I was proud to be a soldier. But, since leaving the defence and even in this day and age, I don't see much of a, there's not much patriotism from my point of view, from my perspective anymore. I don't have a sour taste in my mouth after I left the Defence Force by any means, but I guess I haven't really reflected too much on that because, I don't dwell too much on the past anymore. The patriotism aspect of when I was in the defence, I really felt it. But now, as an Australian, look, geopolitically, I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't know where we sit. I don't have a huge perspective on that. But I don't feel as proud as I was back then. And I think that is a bit of a shift. I think there is a bit of a shift socially in today's age where I think there's a bit of divisiveness between people. Like I feel that sense. And because of that divisiveness, can you wave the Australian flag? Can you, be proud of being Australian? Well, I don't know.
There's definitely been a shift.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, that's up to everyone to decide. Yeah. But when you're coming out of the military, did that shape the way you the way you view fitness and health?
Look, I don't want to badmouth the military, but I was when I fell into my own training style, I started CrossFitting and that sort of thing. I was a lot less fit in the Defence Force versus when I got out. And it's purely because, you train to generally the lowest common denominator, so if someone is quite unfit within your platoon or your section or you've got to adhere to that as well. And the energy systems, there wasn't from what I saw, there wasn't a vast amount of knowledge about how to train certain energy systems. Generally, you go into a circuit, you might do a pack march and you do different things. And there was like a bit of a bravado boy culture where we'd hit the gym and that sort of thing. But leaving the Defence Force and then having that discipline to pursue fitness, I remember when I started training as a personal trainer, I would go to different really good trainers, and I used to get as much knowledge from them as I could to bring it in myself. Whereas when I was in the Defence Force, there wasn't that there. You had to work things out on my own. I mean, we did have PTIs, but they just there to smash you and train you, and then off you go. Yeah.
So it was more, you took away, there was more mental things around your discipline.
Yeah.
And then applying that to the fitness modalities that were in front of you at the time, being CrossFit.
Sure. Yeah. There's that, look, I've got to, I agree with what you're saying, the discipline, I bring it into my fitness 100%, but it was more like that anxiety that I'm talking about. Like you in the Defence Force, it's always go. So when I'm in training, I want to go. I'm feeding my endorphins. I want to hit it hard. I want to pursue. I want to feel something, So I think that's that sort of aspect into my training. I think that's what I got a lot out of the defence. In regards to the Defence Force, on my delivery, on how to be an instructor and a coach, I got a lot out of the Defence Force for that, and I was able to bring that into my own set of idiosyncrasies and personality skills that I'm able to deliver to my clients and the people in my life that need to learn how to train. So I did get that from the defence.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so where to from there? So what? So obviously you were in the training space.
Yep.
What training were you doing yourself, and what training were you coaching others in?
Okay, so this is a kind of an amusing story for me, but there was a trainer. I went straight to fitness first, which is like a commercial gym. I built a business like within 3 months, just being a PT, and I used to do things for aesthetics because I wanted to look good.
Yeah.
I thought in that mindset, I was 26 years old, 27 years old, and I was vain.
In Canberra,
I remember Josh, great trainer, really, really good guy, and I'd call him somewhat of a mentor in some respects. But he said to me, "There's no use looking like a Ferrari if you're going like a Datsun." You know what I mean? Not anything against Datsun. I know a lot of people like Datsuns, but that sat with me in my mind. It ate away at me, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and then I hired him as a PT for myself because he was a good coach. He was very charismatic, very knowledgeable, and he was doing CrossFit at the time. And I remember my first CrossFit session, and I was smoked. It absolutely destroyed me. It was one of the most challenging workouts that I've done. And then I realized, oh, wow, like it opens up this whole spectrum of what I didn't know within training modalities. And that was the start of my addiction into CrossFit, you know. So I started to get quite addicted to CrossFit straight away because it was challenging, and I was receiving something from that. I identified with it. So I fell into CrossFit, and that was it. That same trainer, he started his own CrossFit gym, and then I went and coached with him, and I fell into the CrossFit Open and regionals. And look, CrossFit has a mixed name throughout the world. Like people say, you know, you always get injured doing CrossFit or things happen and that. But if you've got a really good coach, CrossFit is phenomenal because it is the pioneer of functional training in the world today. Like before then, like you do circuit trainings and, you know, your classes and bodybuilding, but CrossFit brought in the use of multiple energy systems, multiple different expertise in all different training aspects, from Olympic weightlifting to powerlifting to basic to moderate level gymnastic skills, the ability to move large loads, long distances quickly, you know, all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden CrossFit, because it's challenging and it's tough and these people jump into it. And since then it peaked, I think, around maybe 2013 to 2017. And then it started to die off. But without them as the pioneers of functional training, I can't see where the world would be with where it's gone with training, from the functional training gyms everywhere. Where we trained yesterday, Sam, you know, like there's functional training gyms. Would that be there now without CrossFit? I don't think so. Would High Rocks be High Rocks now without CrossFit? You know, like they have wall balls. They have all these different aspects that CrossFit has brought into it. So I believe that they were a pioneer. So I'm just tipping my hat to them. Well done. Yeah. The skills that you require to be a good coach, they did really good coaching courses. I know it was mainly over a weekend, but you learned a lot. You learned a lot going through it.
And I think as well as a brand and as a company or organization, I mean, I remember sitting at home watching all of the Netflix docos, Rich Froning, Maddie Fraser, all of the Scandinavian women. Yeah. Like it was like they rock up at this competition. And I think it went for like a week or 2 weeks, and they didn't know what they were going to do. Yep. They were competing for the opportunity to be crowned the fittest on earth. And to do that, they had to rock up and not know what they were actually doing. Were they swimming?
That's
right.
Were
they cycling? Yeah. Were they climbing ropes? Were 100%. They doing, Olympic lifting?
Yep. All of a sudden they've got to do like a triathlon. You know, like you got to prepare for the unknowable. Yeah. And then obviously Tia Claire to me is just phenomenal. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I watched her from afar and online, and she's, an absolute animal.
Yeah. I watched her win gold at the Com Games here on the Gold Coast.
Mate, brilliant. Amazing. And look, that's what CrossFit did. We had that. And then, so I did CrossFit for 7 years, Sam, and maybe a little bit longer. Obviously, made it to 4 years. I think I made it to regionals. I got pretty high up there, and then I fell out of that. And I fell out of that during a big catalyst in my life, marriage breakdown. I had a couple of daughters and that sort of thing, and then I had to shift my mindset.
Yeah. So, power building.
That's what I do now, yes.
What is power building?
So power building, it doesn't really have a definition per se, because I suppose it's kind of new around the world. I use power building because I develop my power, so my strength and my overall power, and then I use the strength to hypertrophy correlation. So I try and get myself really strong and powerful, and then I know that because I'm really strong and powerful, those hypertrophy sets or those muscle growth sets will increase. My body has to adapt. And then, my body adapts to it and it grows, and it's aesthetic and it's a high energy output. In saying that though, I am in my 40s, and I do use super compensation where I'm not overtraining or undertraining. I said before that I only train 4 to 5 times a week. And I purely do that so I can stay in an anabolic state and repair and recover, because I can't train every day anymore, and I can't train as hard as I was when I was doing CrossFit. Yeah.
So I know you've spoken before about if we put it really rudimentary, powerlifting and bodybuilding.
Yeah, it's a bit of a couple. I use a different system. So I use the speed strength method. So I use bands and chains to get explosive power. Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, brilliant mind. You know, Poliquin's brilliant. There's so much information out there, Sam, for people to go and research on their own and just fill their toolbox to make them like excel in any sort of training aspect if they have the discipline to do it. And I've just tried to get that and fill my knowledge as best I can, and then implement that into my own training structure, and then the people that I train, and then hopefully with my obviously social media and that, I can impart my knowledge onto people around the world. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, just to double tap on that, what's it been like with the growth of your presence online? What's that? I mean, obviously the commercial value of that is very obvious, but what's that experience been like?
Well, look, it's been interesting. Like I had my girls for a couple of years while their mum was in Adelaide, and they went back to Adelaide, which is a southern state in Australia, and for a year. And during that year, I said to myself, okay, 2 years with my girls was quite challenging. It was very challenging for me. But for this next year, I'm going to use everything that I've learned in regards to my training knowledge, and I'm going to see where I can take myself, my body, and I'm going to post it online. I want to motivate people. I want to share my knowledge and share my journey a little bit, and see if I can instill that on other people. That was kind of my my mindset behind that. And I had one video clip of me looking quite aesthetic, you know, and then obviously it's appealing to people, so people started following me. And since then, it's been a bit of an interesting journey in regards professionally. Obviously, having a good network of social media online is really good professionally, having a good following. So if you're thinking about posting online, just do it. Go and do it, because it can change your life. But it's been really good. I get a lot of people messaging me, and I try and get back to as many people as I can, but it's quite hard. I'm a one-man show. I don't use any AI. I don't use any meeting settlers or anything like that. And but I do get a lot of positive messages from people saying that I've really, really helped them, and I think that motivates me to do more. And that's kind of been a bit of a driving factor behind my social media.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? I mean, like
it's crazy.
I was at the football last week at the MCG in Melbourne, and there was 60,000 people that time. But I mean, I've been there plenty of times, and there's been 100,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah,
and to think that there's 5 of those, or even more, 5 or 6 of those stadiums at full capacity following you at all times. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, that wouldn't have been even fathomable.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Especially when you put it like that.
Yeah.
You know, it is pretty crazy. And look, I'm humbled to be in a position where I can have that sort of following.
And I mean, that's why we're sitting here right now.
Yeah. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously I reached out to you,
of course.
And fortunately you came
Why
back
did you
to me.
reach out to me specifically? What was it about my Instagram that you were attracted to?
I think I mean, look, the way you aesthetically look goes without saying.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's not a great answer because that's obvious. I think it was your to be fair, you had I think you had something around being a veteran in your bio, which was automatically a respect piece. Automatically.
Yep.
And then I think the way you put your account together is kind of no bullshit.
Yeah. Okay,
like it's pretty rudimentary.
Yep.
You've got like, you know, every second photo or video is like black and white, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like a no bullshit bloke, fit, healthy, veteran. It was just like tick, 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 tick.
That's good to know because I just wanted to know.
Yeah. And I think we worked closely together for a few months.
Yeah.
And then
business, work, life. Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good point to go into. What, for business people, and I mean, let's just talk about men because the reality is most of the people you coach are going to be men. Yeah.
I do train a few females, but 100%. A lot of my following is majority men. I think 90%.
Makes sense. Yeah. So for businessmen that are out there that are really busy,
what
if they had to pick like a few things to nail, because they can't do it all.
Yeah.
And in my experience, when I've tried to have my nutrition dialed, everything prepared to the macro, have all my training organized, I just set the standard too high and then I just can't achieve it.
Yeah.
What are like the priorities, or the, how can I reword this? The fundamental non-negotiables for the hyper busy man?
Look, I would suggest for a hyper busy man to do one resistance session a week. So whether that's both lower and upper, you don't have to spend more than an hour in the gym. So one resistance session where you're covering both your legs and your upper body. It can just be 1 to 2 sets of your legs, 1 to 2 sets, or one to two different movements of your upper body: push, pull, core, lower body. There's your resistance stuff done. And then training your other energy systems. So obviously that's your phosphate, not obviously, that's your phosphate system, or your fast twitch. And then I would go into my lactic system and I'd do some interval-based training. So interval-based training can take you, 20 minutes. You only need 30 minutes. You go into the gym, do a quick warm-up. You might, lactic threshold happens between that 10 seconds to 2 minute mark. So you'll do some moderate sprints around that 85% capacity and you'll work rest. So you're going to work for 20 seconds to 2 minutes and then rest for however long. Do that a few times. It only has to be about 20 minutes, but because you're on a high output and you're sprinting and you're up that 85% capacity, obviously you're going to get that lactic threshold adaptations, but then it also effectively helps your aerobic capacity. And then on that last day, you can just do a quick zone 2, anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, zone 2. And then you've got your cardiovascular, you've got your lactic threshold, and then you've got your phosphate system. It's 3 sessions a week. 2 of those sessions can be half an hour. You've got plenty of time. If you're saying you don't have time, I'm a busy man. Like, I've got kids, I've got businesses, I work my ass off. Just because I'm in the gym doesn't mean I have the time to train, but I make sure that I do it. And I think that it's important that you don't use that as an excuse, number one. But make it a priority, because when you're feeling good and you're training 3 times a week and you're doing maybe those energy systems, your body's going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. I mean, you know it, I know it. Everybody knows that when you're training and you're releasing great hormones in your body and your heart's working well, you have more energy to do other things. So, I think it's vastly important. 3 sessions a week, 1 for an hour where you're covering your whole body, just doing some resistance training, 1 sprint session, interval base, and then 1 aerobic capacity. And that way you're covering all bases and you're good to go.
Yeah. Wow. There you go. No, it's true. I like your point there on excuses. I more recently have been trying to switch my self-dialogue, or even dialogue to others, to using the word priority. And when I don't have time to do something, I have been trying to switch and say it's not a priority for me right now, because that's the truth.
Yeah.
If you're not training, if that was your priority, you'd have time for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's actually that it's just not the priority.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful, because I just think you're not having time for it is a cop-out.
Yeah, it is a cop-out.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. You get one body, this is your temple.
Yeah.
This is your temple. Eat better, get rid of alcohol, save it for special occasions. I really am passionate about that, specifically. Like, you have one body and you should be an example for those people close in your life, especially as a man. If you're a husband or a father, if you want to be a leader, if you want to go places, then it's your responsibility to just be a light or a spark where people can look at you and see what you're doing, and they can go, hey, look at Michael, look at Sam, and he looks well, he carries himself well, he trains, he looks after himself. I want to do that, because I've found that it's not easy to tell people what to do, but it's easy to show people what to do.
And it's one of those things that you can't buy.
100%.
Hey,
yeah.
It's one of the only things that you can't buy.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You can get all the liposuction you want. You're still unfit, Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, we're going to take a really quick break from today's episode to talk to you about our sponsor, Kingfishers Bend Farm. At the beginning of this year, I made a decision that I wanted to make 2025 my best year yet. And I knew my health needed to be on point for me to do that. And so, that's great sleep, that's exercising regularly. I'm not drinking any alcohol this year, but it also means fueling my body with the highest quality, most nutrient-dense food I can, to put me in the best position to perform highly. And that's why I'm working with Kingfishers Bend Farm. Kingfishers Bend Farm are a local family-owned farm from down in northern New South Wales. They put a lot of love into what they do. They raise paddock to plate beef. And as you can see here, we've got plenty of different cuts. We've got, obviously steaks. I mean, the marbling on that is just sensational. Have a look at that. Beef ribs. We've got bones for bone marrow. We're going to cook some bone marrow up. We've got beef mince, we've got ground beef, we've got sausages, we've got the whole lot here. This is actually a quarter beast on the table right in front of me, which is pretty cool. You can order a quarter beast, a half beast, or a full beast at any point in time. And fortunately for everyone who watches this show, Kingfishers Bend Farm have been incredibly generous. They're offering $250 off everybody's first order. So whether you want to buy a quarter beast, a half beast, or a full beast, they're offering $250 off your first order. To claim the offer, just head to kingfishersfarm.store and include Sam Hope as the code in your checkout. And look, just before we get back to the episode, the way I look at these things is if you're driving a McLaren and you're wanting to get the highest performance from that supercar as possible, you're not putting E10 or 91 in the vehicle. You're putting the most highest octane petroleum that you can possibly get your hands on. And I don't think it's any different with our bodies. If we're wanting to perform at the highest possible levels and be sharp in meetings, walking into a room where people just go, wow, that guy's on. What's that guy on? What's he taking? We've got to fuel our bodies with the best possible nutrient-dense food. And that's why I'm so happy to be working with Kingfishers Bend Farm. Claim the offer, kingfishersfarm.store. Use code SAMHOPE at checkout. And I look forward to getting back to this episode.
Nutrition-wise, we've just covered the fundamentals of training for the busy businessman.
Yes.
Fundamentals of nutrition for the busy businessman.
Look, what works for me is eating the same thing every day, and then making sure that food has a good macro spread, so your proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Yep. And when you do that over and over again, your body gets used to consuming it. And I found that has really worked well for me and my clients. And that's what I would advise people to do. And it may be simple as, using ChatGPT, use it, or getting a meal plan, prepping yourself. But as soon as you start doing something for over 3 weeks or a month, you get used to it. And then once you get your body to a certain state, it's easy to get back there. I'm human. We're all human, and we always veer off our food and training. But as long as you're veering yourself and realigning, I think that's very vastly important. So I think, eating the same thing every day, and then that way, on a weekend, you may have a good meal or have one alcoholic beverage or whatever you need, to feel satiated. Go and do that. But different ages, different size body types require different macros or different calorie inputs and outputs. But it is 100% energy in, energy out. So if anyone wants to tell you it's your hormones or the medication you're having or this, that, and the other, it's not. It is literally, if you're in a calorie deficit, you are going to burn body fat. If you're in a surplus, you will gain. It's just as simple as that. So if you can get yourself over 6 weeks, bring yourself into a deficit, so you bring your calories down, and then you get data. So if your body hasn't changed, you haven't lost any body fat, you need to reduce those calories again. Do that for another 6 weeks. Reduce them again. Do that. Okay, this is working. All right, now it's working. I know what works for me. I'm eating the same thing. And then all of a sudden you look aesthetically pleasing and you feel great. Yeah.
What do you think about fasting?
Honestly, it's not my expertise. I don't fast often. I've got some clients that fast and they purely fast because, and that's just a micro fast where they may not eat till lunchtime and have 2 meals a day because it helps them reduce their calories. And it just helps reduce calories. And when they've reduced their calories, they're obviously burning body fat and they're healthier and they can move better. I've got a client at the moment and she got rid of her morning meals. Has been overweight for a period of time. And since she got rid of that morning meal, she's only eating those 2 meals a day. It's reduced her calories. Now that she's reduced her calories, she's burning body fat and she's moving better and she's feeling healthier and she's sleeping better. So, it works if you can maintain that and you're eating in that deficit. So that's my opinion on fasting. I've never done a long fast, so I never want to comment on that because I just don't have the knowledge base there. Yeah.
And supplementation.
Supplements. I love supplements in that fish oil, vitamin D gives me energy. There is supplements in regards to like protein powders and that sort of thing. If you're need to consume more protein, use them. Creatine's phenomenal. But I'm all for supplements, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If by your diet you're not getting in what you need, absolutely supplement them. Yeah, it's actually changed my life. The supplements that I've taken in regards to increasing my vitamin D dose. I have CoQ10, which helps my mitochondrial energy, and I've felt the difference by taking these supplements. So, and I can do, and I know the difference is there purely because I've done it for over 18 months. So absolutely supplements.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. PEDs. Testosterone.
Yep.
What are your views on it?
Look, one thing, I don't take any unnatural supplements yet. Okay, so I don't know if when I'm 45 to 50 years old, whether or not I'll go down that avenue, but it's there. I don't know a lot about
the science behind it.
No, not that I don't know a lot about the science behind it. I understand it, but I guess like because I've never used. I don't know much about it. People come into my DMs and go, "You're on the gear, like you take Masteron and this, that, and the other, and all these different testosterone, whatever, or steroids." But I don't even know what they're talking about, And I do follow some people online where I've heard them speak about supplementing with testosterone and steroids and that sort of stuff. And there's some knowledge there. I don't know how truthful, like what it does to your body.
Sure.
But look, I can't really comment on it because I don't have a lot of experience with it. I've had some friends that have used like BP 157 and TB 500s, peptides to help with repair and recovery. But look, if there is anything out there that is safe and that can help with longevity, both in a training environment and for your lifespan, look, I'd be all for it. Yeah, but at this point, like not yet.
Yeah.
I think it's important to bring yourself as genetically possible to your best before you jump in. But that's just my opinion because I've never had it before. Yeah, so.
And then in the industry, I mean, so what are your insights and interests in the health industry more broadly? What is your kind of, because obviously you're so much further beyond being a PT nowadays.
Yeah.
What is your career? What is like a snapshot of your kind of portfolio of businesses?
Yeah.
What does your life look like in that sense?
Yeah. So professionally,
some exciting projects too.
Some cool projects. My brother's a fashion designer for one, and we want to develop like a clothing brand and that sort of thing. And I can use my platform for that. And that's just like for something for us to do, and hopefully give some good products to people out there, and some good message with our gear. And hopefully that's releasing soon, probably before this podcast is out. So that's happening. But more broadly, I like coaching people online. I've been coaching people online for a while. It's more of a hobby base for me because obviously I work here in Australia separately. But I think the world is shifting from old training styles and really looking at longevity, health and well-being, holistic approach to training. And because of that, and because of the environments that my social media has allowed me to be in, and prior to that with some great entrepreneurs and businessmen, I've been able to witness some really phenomenal gyms and wellness centers and things that are provided to people to actually enhance their lives and longevity through holistic training, from meditation to Pilates through to recovery to hyperbaric chambers and cold plunges and saunas, and then integrating that into my power building or functional training. So because of that, professionally, I haven't really spoken this to too many people. I want to release or build a luxury wellness brand, which hopefully for me professionally is going to go ahead in the next 3 to 6 months. Yeah. So that's what I want to do. And we'll see, because I think that's where the world's going. And I think it's always good to be ahead of the pulse or the head of the curve. And professionally, I think that's where I want to be at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's cool just talking about health, and because on this show we spend a lot of time talking about business, We speak with a lot of business people,
Yeah.
who are running billion-dollar companies and all these sorts of things, which is super cool. But I mean, I've got a philosophy on health, or it's actually a philosophy on life, and it loops in health and business. I'll share it with you, but I think it's really cool to just kind of encompass everything. I came up with this with a whiteboard pen and a whiteboard in my studio apartment in freshwater Sydney when I was 17. It's called HTR.
HTR.
Which stands for health, time, and relationships.
Okay.
And so the fundamental premise of it is that it's like a pyramid.
Yep.
So at the base we've got relationships.
Yep.
Because the idea is that relationships is what underpin all of the amazing experiences we have as human beings.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Which is obvious. But the point around it is the reason we're in business is so that we can spend capital to acquire time. And time is obviously finite. Capital is infinite. Right? At its core.
100%.
And so the idea is that, well, if we haven't got our careers and our business in order, what's the point in having brilliant relationships if we've got no time to spend with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Yeah.
And then obviously at the very top is health, because if our time is unhealthy, then the time is actually meaningless.
Yeah.
And I think that's the epiphany that comes to people that are experiencing sickness, unfortunately, is they realize, oh my God, everything that I'm working towards is to acquire time, to spend time with those relationships that I love. Yeah. But if it's unhealthy time, it's redundant.
It's like the foundation for time, and time is what we're all after, I guess, to spend with our loved ones.
So I mean, another way to put it would be relationships, business, health. But I think time is a better word, because that's actually what we're doing business for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it's cool just kind of talking to you about health, nutrition, training, because it's just something, especially, I mean, as a younger guy too, I take being young for granted, and I can get away with things that, gentlemen in their 50s and 60s probably can't.
That's right. I can't get away with it anymore either.
Yeah. And you put it aside and you go, well, I can deal with that later.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is it doesn't work like that. You build habits.
Yeah, you do, man.
Yeah. You're a son, you're a father, you're a leader, you're an employer, you're a veteran. When we talk about masculinity, what's true, authentic masculinity when you think of that word, and how do you manifest that?
Look, it's an interesting question. It's a good question, but I think as a man, I think we have an ingrained sense of wanting to protect and provide for those people close to us. And I think if you can, if you're aware of that instinct, it's instinctual,
it is, isn't
especially having kids. Like there's an instinct, and you can feel it. And when you feel like you can protect and provide for your family and those people close around you, I think that's where true masculinity thrives. Especially if you can deliver it in a confident, calming, emotionally mature, socially mature way. And what I mean by that is to be probably like a foundational pillar where your family and the people close to you can look to you in a way and feel safe. And when people can feel safe around you, I think that's the true spectrum of masculinity. Yeah. And I think that stems from that instinctual sort of wanting to protect and provide for those people that you care about. And when you have that foundation, you're more, I think you almost feel unstoppable, to be honest. When you're aware of that foundation and that instinct, there's nothing that can get in your way to wanting to achieve those things for those people close to you.
Yeah. There's an alignment that you feel, don't you?
Yeah, you feel it. Like it's an instinct. There is an instinct to want to be a strong leader, charismatic. You have a sense of purpose for your family and those friends of yours that you care about. And when you're in a position like I am, I find I'm in a really good position because I do, I've been able to be lucky enough to build myself the way I have aesthetically, and with the knowledge I have in training, like I get to be in a position where I get to show people that, and I'm just very, very blessed. And I think masculinity, true masculinity. I don't think there's.
It's a buzzword at the moment.
It is a buzzword at the moment. And I know a lot of people throw around toxic masculinity. And to be honest, I think about that and I think, well, if you're truly masculine, if masculine is the title of it, then it's not toxic in any way, because a toxic masculine male isn't true masculinity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the same with femininity as well. But I think that true masculinity brings out true femininity in women as well. So, yeah.
For young men specifically that feel a little bit misplaced, I think the population of those men is growing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What's some practical advice? Like what do you say to those young guys who just aren't feeling connected in society, or might not be super fit mentally or physically? Do you have a few like bang bang bang? Like these are the this is what you need to square off.
I think, I've posted about this online, but I think as a young man, I think you really need to learn to understand yourself and who you are and sit in quiet. I like to sit in quiet sometime and just think about the actions that I do, whether I'm acting righteously or the right way. And you learn a lot about yourself. I traveled recently by myself for a little while and I learned a lot about myself. But I think if you can keep the promises you make to yourself, so as a young man, if you say to yourself, well, you know what, I need to look after myself, I need to train, I need to study, I need to apply for jobs or whatever it may be, and you make a promise to yourself, both in a micro and a macro sense, and you stick to those promises, you'll feel good about yourself. You'll feel great about yourself. And when I talk about micro, it might be in the morning you're going to go, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to get this done today. And you go and get that done, and you kept a promise to yourself. And because you've kept that promise to yourself, you feel good about it. In a macro sense, okay, by this stage, I want to achieve this. And those macro ones that you keep promises to yourself are even more satisfying. And then with that respect, now that you've built towards yourself, you start to feel confident because you are keeping those promises to yourself. And then that's effectively what you present to the world and to yourself. And I think that's probably the most important lesson that I didn't learn until I was in my 30s, giving promises to myself and maintaining them.
Yeah, isn't that important? We often overlook the relationship that we have with art.
Yeah, 100%. And especially, young minds, they distracted. It's easy to get distracted these days. I mean, Sam, like social media, everything's at our fingertips. Like you can eat whatever you want. You don't even need much money. You can eat crap, and you can be on social media and get this fix of, dopamine whenever you want. And to be able to move that aside and then get a little bit uncomfortable and, adhere to those promises, I think that's a recipe for success for a young man.
Absolutely. Habits and rituals. Are there any unusual things that you like to do?
Habits and rituals.
Things that give you a bit of an edge that other people might not do, or lots of people do, or even, guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures. I like kombucha. It's my guilty pleasure. I like a sweet drink with no sugar. Sometimes I'll have a Coke Zero or...
I think that's just a pleasure, not a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Pleasure. But look, I think habitually, I'm a little bit messy in that, like I like to have my stuff ready to go. So I'll leave my stuff on the table because I know I need to do something, or I'll leave my computer out. It makes me work. I read Atomic Habits, once. So I've just set myself up that way. But that means I'm not always super clean. But I just have myself in a certain manner. I'm pretty relaxed in that regard. But I don't know. I've never really thought about my habits because I suppose it's just part of me. I just do the same thing. I don't realize they're habits already.
Yes.
I'm really good at putting myself in a hole with training. That's a habit that I've just always been able to do. I'm really good at getting myself to a point where I'm hurting and then pushing myself beyond that. I don't know if you can call that a habit or a ritual, but that's just something that I've always been good at. What else? Look, that's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know, Sam.
What about, you know, in terms of what the types of exercise, exercise modalities or whatever we want to call it, that somebody has in front of them. Obviously, we've got strength training in the gym. We've got cardio training.
Yeah.
We've got more advanced things like power building.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, CrossFit. We've got high rocks now.
Yeah.
Running is actually a huge one. And even endurance sports. I know a lot of people who compete in endurance sports, not professionally, but just because they like that.
Yeah. And
that's interesting because that directly tees into what you just said around being at your capacity and pushing beyond that.
Yeah.
Has endurance sports or running ever interested you or
Look, I don't enjoy running too long. Yeah. You know, like I'm a good runner. Yeah. Like I'm actually quite fast.
Are you aerobic or anaerobic now?
I've got a good mix. I think I'm definitely fast twitch. I'm quite explosive. If you don't know much about your fast twitch and your slow twitch, your body has a breakup of fast twitch and slow twitch fibers. Yep. And I think I have a mixture of both, a good mixture of both. Obviously being a CrossFitter, you need to have that. But essentially, in regards to running, it hasn't I don't enjoy it, but I do it. Okay. So I'll go for runs now because it's just where I am in life. I like feeling a certain way. I like the endorphin release. I like feeling healthy. I like having a healthy heart, and that's just the way I am. So I do run at least once or twice a week, and I add that on top of my sessions. There's various amounts of training aspects. You brought it up. So you've got your CrossFit, high rocks, which is an endurance-based sport.
It's like a menu now. It's like going to a restaurant.
Yeah. Like which one is the best? And I think the best way to look at it is if you enjoy something, just keep doing it. And if you're active, keep doing it because if you start to get to a point where it's not feeling fun anymore, you might be overtraining, number one. So if you're in a position where you want to do more, you might be in the perfect. This is one thing that sort of sat with me. If you're in a position where you're feeling like you could do an extra day of training, that extra day of training may be too much. Do you get what I mean? You're in the perfect sort of headspace because you want to do more. So just keep that in mind. But I think out of all those training modalities, I'm a power builder now. I love it because I love the way I look. I love being powerful. And then I do like conditioning myself. So nothing too intense because the power building uses the barbell is already drained my central nervous system. So when I go into a functional or a conditioning piece, it's always low impact. I like to feel fit, so I do that. That is me personally. But I think if you're doing anything, whether it's from Pilates to yoga to walking to running to any sort of exercise, as long as you're eating well and not consuming too much alcohol, it's always number one for me. Then and you're happy doing that, keep doing it because that's it. If you want to look aesthetically pleasing, power build, especially if you're natural, because the strength to hypertrophy correlation, it works for all my clients. It works for me. Power building is phenomenal, and that is using the strength method and the speed strength method, using hypertrophy sets. And then I like to add in, because I want to be fit, functional conditioning pieces to be fit. And that, for me, that recipe has worked really,
Which
really
would help with the leanness.
Yeah, it helps with the leanness because it's energy out. But, any sort of energy out is going to help with your leanness. And this is one thing that people might not understand. Like, a lot of people have their watches and they're counting their calories. Not all of the watches. I remember looking at the data, the calories were off on all different watches there. So just be careful with that. But if you're anaerobically training, so you're lifting weights, you might be doing a functional training session where you're using barbells and you're damaging your central nervous system as well as your muscles. You burn for that day and you're burning for days after. You know what I mean? Resistance training and metabolic conditioning, and I'll use metabolic conditioning as utilizing all of your energy systems in one training session, because you're breaking down the body both neurologically and your muscles are working and you're exerting that amount of energy. You're burning for that day and for days after. So just keep that in mind. It's not just for that day that you've counted your calories and you burn those calories. That's why resistance training is so effective. Yeah, because you're breaking down and you're cooked. So just keep that in mind.
What about mobility stretching? Do you have to carve out time for that? That's one thing I struggle with.
Yeah. So I'm the type of person, if I have a bit of a niggle, I don't do prehab, right? So I've got a niggle coming up, I've got to sort it out. Over time, I've got really, really good at knowing certain issues with them in my body, just out of test and adjusting of what I need to do to be able to get rid of a shoulder impingement or a knee impingement or a back issue, or I can do that myself with utilizing balls and bands and different things, or going to the right physios. However, in regards to mobility, I tell people to mobilize as best you can. Stretching, for me, is stretching the Golgi tendon and the muscle spindle. Does it have any sort of recovery aspect to it? No. Does it increase blood flow? Maybe. But myofascial release, so using voodoo bands and balls and rollers, brilliant, because you're essentially sending signals to your brain for those muscles to relax and release, and you're helping increase blood flow and recovery to those. So I believe the myofascial release is brilliant, so massage. Stretching, don't have to overstretch. Before you're doing any sort of strength training, do some basic dynamic stretches. Don't do static stretching. So static stretching is when you're just doing a static stretch and holding something for a certain period of time. A dynamic stretch is more a movement stretch, because you do lose some sort of ability to fire when you're doing static stretching before you strength train. I don't do a lot of stretching, but I do enough stretching to keep the mobility that I require for the movements that I'm doing. So if I need to squat deep and I need to press, I do enough mobility to allow me to do that, and that has worked for me throughout my training duration. Yeah, and
I'm just firing off questions.
Go for it.
It's fascinating and really value dense. You're a father. Many people who watch this show are parents as well.
Yeah.
With your girls, is there anything that you do differently to help develop them or help them become optimal from a health standpoint, whether it's training or whether it's food-wise, or whether it's just education?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do try and educate my girls as much as I can. So I talk to them about training stuff. They don't listen to me, but
also
I try to.
You're just subconsciously, you're an example as well.
Which
is something that you don't even have to do.
Yeah. They do look up to me and they're like, "Dad, you're so strong," that sort of stuff, which is pretty cute. But look, I put my girls in gymnastics. I make my kids do gymnastics. The coordination, the anaerobic, for me, I never did gymnastics when I was a kid. I wish I did. I think that is probably my favorite thing that my kids could do in regards to movement, body coordination, all that sort of stuff is gymnastics. So I put them there. Do they come to the gym with me? Not often. I have trained with them. I keep them involved as best we can. And then on the weekends, I keep them active, basketball and riding bikes and that sort of stuff. But they're young, and they're having fun. So they dance a lot. We dance together and all that sort of thing. And then I put them in gymnastics, and then I try and teach them stuff when they want to listen.
Yeah, cool.
But gymnastics, I think, is just amazing for children.
Yeah. What's changed in your life after having kids?
Look, I used to be really selfish. I was very ego-driven, very selfish human being, especially in my 20s. Just it was always training. I just wanted to train. I remember people would say, have a look at my daughter and my kid, show me photos. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll have a look at this. And I'm being sarcastic now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I had my first child that I was like, oh, okay, I have to be selfless. And it wasn't even later on. It took me a while. It was a very uncomfortable time for me, because I had to shift from being selfish to selfless, because there's someone relying on you, especially if you're aware and you want to be a good role model in your children's life. That awareness just makes you feel uncomfortable, because you're morphing into someone who has to give rather than take. That was a turning point in my life, both both in the respect of knowing who I am, and just the pivotal moment in understanding that I'm not the center of the earth. My kids are the center of the earth, and that I've got to be a good father to them. And now my obsession with CrossFit and I suppose physique modeling, all that sort of, my obsession there went from that and went into providing and protecting my children. That was the biggest change for me, having children, and they are the best and they love you unconditionally. And it's important to give them as much time of you as you can, even if you're busy and you've got things on. Put your phone away. And I'm guilty of being distracted and working too much, but you see them light up when you actually, give them all of you for a certain period of time, and they take everything in and they love you more. And I think, especially when they're young, you want to give them great memories of yourself. And that decision for me, they just changed my life, Sam. I can't thank God enough for what He's given me. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have my two beautiful girls. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
AKA Superman, as we like to call you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's just the glasses. Harry Potter. Yeah.
For people that are out there, what's the best? I mean, we've got a mutual friend who's almost a billionaire. You've spent a lot of time training him. You coach a lot of people who are in business at a really high level. Many people, famous celebrities and actors, follow you online and follow all the things that you do.
Yep.
What are ways that people can work with you? Is it just, engaging in your content online, or do you still offer services around the world or just locally? Or
So essentially I use my online stuff. It just started out as a hobby, really. So I do take online clients. Obviously I can't do face-to-face because I'm too busy, but I just train people online. I use a coaching platform and set up people's program, and if they're disciplined enough to follow it, then they keep them on and they communicate with me through WhatsApp and that sort of stuff. So I do that. And then in the near future, I'll probably release some sort of application where you can get some, free program services and, subscription and that sort of stuff. But essentially, like, that's what I'm doing online and that's what I'm offering people in the vast world. But my focus is bringing this holistic wellness sort of scheme into the planet, because I think that's going to be effectively something that can help people and obviously give me a great profession to follow. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Michael.
Thank you, mate. I love hanging out with you. I know we get to catch up every so often throughout the year, and I can tell you that it's always a pleasure seeing you and seeing where you're going, because you're an entrepreneur. No one knows this, but Sam doesn't just do world-class voices. He's actually a very skilled entrepreneur. You've built, an AI company, a software company, and not long from now, you're heading to the States to get into this new endeavor, which I'm really excited for you. And you're very young and very just beyond your years. You are very intelligent and you have great discipline, and it's actually a motivation for me as well. So I'm really pleased to be here, Sam, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're too kind, Michael. Thank you very much.
Cheers.